A historic morning in Annapolis. The air in Annapolis carried the crisp chill of early morning as the United States Naval Academy stood in all its glory. The stunning white limestone buildings, adorned with centuries of history, seemed to loom over the grounds where some of the nation's greatest leaders had once walked. It was the kind of place where echoes of valor and sacrifice felt palpable in the breeze. Inside the Grand Hall, hundreds of military personnel, veterans, and dignitaries gathered for what was supposed to be a standard event, an annual military leadership summit. It was a time for camaraderie, reflection, and planning for the future of the armed forces. But this day would be anything but standard. As the crowd murmured and adjusted their uniforms, with the crisp sound of dress shoes echoing against polished floors, the energy in the room shifted. A familiar presence had arrived. Donald J. Trump made his entrance, dressed in a sharp navy blue suit, a bold red tie, and his signature unshakable confidence. Trump walked into the hall like a commander inspecting his troops, his gaze sweeping the room. The applause was immediate, a wave of sound cascading through the hall. Some stood, others clapped from their seats, but all eyes remained trained on him. Even after leaving office, his impact was undeniable. His tenure had been marked by a firm commitment to military strength, raising defense, budgets to unprecedented levels, rebuilding weakened forces, and emphasizing peace through power. He shook hands with officers, exchanged nods with generals, and then his gaze locked onto someone across the room. Captain Emma Reynolds, the warrior in the room, standing tall in her immaculate uniform. Arms behind her back was Captain Emma Reynolds. At just 34 years old, she had already carved out a legend among those who knew her story. Born in a small town in Texas to a family of veterans, the ethos of service was ingrained in her from a young age, and she had grown up with a deep respect for the flag, discipline, and duty. Joining the Navy at 18, she had quickly risen through the ranks, earning top honors in training and pushing herself harder than anyone else. She had seen combat, leading missions in unstable regions, always outmaneuvering enemies who underestimated her. She earned the trust of her soldiers, not because of her title, but because she never asked them to do what she wouldn't do herself. But leadership came with challenges. Some within the ranks doubted her, not because of her skills, but because of outdated beliefs. They whispered behind her back, calling her too young, too bold, too unwilling to back down from difficult conversations. Yet here she stood. Trump, always one to recognize fighters, walked directly toward her. The room fell into an intense silence, the conversation that sparked a nationwide debate. Trump extended his hand, a smile flickering across his face. "Captain, you look like someone who knows how to win." Her handshake was firm, unyielding. "Mr. President, I do my best." Trump smirked, clearly intrigued. "Tell me something, Captain. What drives you?" Without hesitation, she replied, "America, sir." His interest piqued further. He leaned in slightly, almost conspiratorially. "Good answer. But what does that mean to you?" Emma held his gaze unwavering. "It means we lead. We don't apologize for being strong. We don't ask for permission to protect our people. And we sure as hell don't kneel before the world." The room was dead silent. Even the air felt charged with anticipation. Trump nodded approvingly, seeming to drink in her words. "That's exactly what we need. Leadership isn't about being liked. It's about being strong. The weak want us to apologize. The strong know that power keeps us safe." Reynolds took a deep breath, then spoke with unwavering conviction. "Sir, I've seen the cost of hesitation. I've witnessed what happens when our leaders prioritize headlines over their soldiers, when they choose to pause instead of act, and when they allow the enemy to believe, even for an instant, that we're weak." Trump's expression hardened. His mind likely raced with the implications. "And what happens when weak leaders take charge?" Without missing a beat, Reynolds' answer was swift and sharp. "People die." The weight of those two words hung heavily in the air. An electric implication echoed in her assertion, one that went beyond politics and touched on the very values of leadership and responsibility. Then a wave of applause started. First a few scattered claps. Then it transformed into a thunderous standing ovation that reverberated through the hall. The cameras had been rolling. Within hours, the footage exploded across various platforms. Twitter, YouTube, news networks, all lit up with the powerful exchange that had just unfolded. America had just witnessed something profound, something that struck a deeply resonant chord in the hearts of many. Veterans, soldiers, and patriots began to take to social media, rallying behind her words of strength and resolve. Statements poured in. Finally, someone in uniform who isn't afraid to say it. Captain Reynolds for president in 2040. Trump and Reynolds just delivered the most powerful message of the year. But not everyone was pleased. The political establishment wasn't happy about this sudden rise in dialogue. Within 48 hours of the summit, Captain Reynolds found herself called into high-stakes meetings with senior officials. Some worried the remarks were too aggressive, that they would upset diplomatic relations. A well-dressed official, his face somber and expressionless, folded his hands in front of him and said, "Captain, you must be careful with your words." Reynolds didn't blink, her resolve unwavering. "My words were careful, sir." Others tried to play what they saw as a diplomatic hand, suggesting she could ease the tension by pushing forth a more tempered statement. "Maybe you could issue a clarification," another suggested. "Something softer, perhaps, that doesn't come off so strong." Her response, "No." The room erupted into murmurs, as if they couldn't fathom her refusal. She had stood firm in her belief. She knew the truth of what she had said, realized that clarity often bore a heavier price than ambiguity. Trump doubles down. As criticism mounted like a storm, Trump did what he always did. He hit back harder, framing the conversation in a way that galvanized his supporters. Speaking at a rally just days later, he addressed the backlash with fierce tenacity, rallying the crowd to support his call for clarity and fortitude in leadership. They're attacking a great American hero because she told the truth. And the truth is, weak leaders make weak nations. But not Captain Reynolds. She's strong. She's the kind of leader we need. The crowd erupted in cheers, a surge of energy that reverberated, similarly to the applause in the hall just days before. Across the country, something shifted in the atmosphere. Enlistment numbers spiked dramatically, with young recruits citing Captain Reynolds as a major inspiration for their decision to serve. Social media saw an explosion of Churchill Reynolds for president, as discussions turned to how her strong leadership qualities might influence the future of the military and the nation. Veterans voiced their renewed faith in the military. Politicians on both sides had to acknowledge the sea change that was occurring. The moment that defined a nation. What had started as a simple conversation had morphed into a rallying cry, a turning point, a beacon of hope and determination. Because the truth remains unwavering. A strong America is an unstoppable America.